Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alex Ferraro, and welcome to the first of a six-part series of Back to Basics. Today, we are going to be talking about document management and best practices around it and back to the basics. So just a few little housekeeping items before we get started. We welcome your questions, but if you do have any questions, please use the chat window in your GoToWebinar control panel. We will have a brief Q&A at the very end of this webinar, and then any other questions will be followed up by somebody else or somebody after this webinar. The recording of today's webinar will be sent to everyone in a follow-up email. So welcome to Back to Basics, and today, again, we're going to be discussing modernizing project documentation. So to begin, we're going to talk a little bit about what is a document management system. So at a core, a document management system allows for you to track, manage, receive, and even store your documents. Originally, going back a little bit in history with our construction, is that this was not done electronically. You would find you'd find documents in file cabinets, hard copies on forms. They would be in trailers. They would be back in the main office. They'd kind of be all over the place. Since then, it has now evolved, and we have a lot of times now a drive. So it could be a P drive, an X drive that we're utilizing to store some of those documents now, maybe using email and some other tools. However, it's still not 100% centralized. And each different project manager might have their own way of how they want to manage those specific documents. So it's not necessarily consistent across each of our projects. So now you have a project management information system application. Is that enough? There was an FMI report that showed that over $31 billion was spent on document accuracy in 2018. That was a lot of money spent to not being able to find the correct document or being able to find specific documents. So has everyone ever asked these questions? One, where is the specific document stored? I don't know where to go or who to ask. Is this the most recent and updated version of this document? Did we end up paying that contractor? Is this the most updated version of that specific drawing? Where's the spec sheet? The issue is not just having the system, but making sure you set up in a way that leads you to be able to track and find your documents. Having the right controls in place and consistency. So as we go through this, some things to consider. What are the things that you want to track? How do you want to reduce your risk? What is the access? Who has access? What is a single source of truth? Let's start with a little bit with the reduction of risk. Many owners don't realize until a disaster occurs, like a lawsuit, a claim, or major construction defect. But proper construction documentation management system can greatly reduce the significant legal risk for an owner, knowing and being able to quickly find those documents. Workers' comp claims, disputes over project construction, and the cost of claims and litigation are expensive hazards for an owner. Being able to hold folks accountable, see who uploaded it, when. Think of how important submittals are and when they're being provided, and being able to say that when was that provided? When was it reviewed? Being able to answer the following questions. What did the original spec sheet and drawing say? What was the document modified? Did the contractor agree in writing and confirm the updated spec? Being accessible by anyone anywhere also allows you to get timely information. So the pain, again, going back, a lot of us have moved away now from the traditional hard copy based construction documents and have now moved to modernized systems such as eBuilder. But being a cloud-based system, you are able to access our documents anywhere, anytime, as long as you have internet connection. So you could be in the field, you could be anywhere and just pull up your cell phone, you could pull up your tablet and be able to look at that drawing and say, hey, does this make sense? Instead of having to go back to the trailer and trying to find document or log back into the laptop. You can reduce the pain of an audit. Working with government. There's so much compliance that goes to the federal, state, and local regulations and requires owners to be extremely diligent when it comes to project documentation. Having a centralized location for this information can help reduce heartburn. To prove compliance with governing bodies, proper documentation management is the most important step that you can take. You can say, yes, these are the latest drawings. And then having a single source of truth. Again, traditionally, construction has been an extremely fragmented process involving many different contributors across different systems. The goal of construction software is to consolidate these systems into a single source of truth, or a place where everyone collaborates, stores critical project information. Project managers traditionally have used Excel, paper, emails, so not centralized really that much at all. But by having a centralized key location that stores all of your documents, you can ensure the latest is there and have a single source of truth. So I'm going to talk about some pains. So here's a scenario. I'm new to a project. I can't find the necessary documents. The project manager I worked for previously put them in this folder, the specific folder, and that folder doesn't exist on this other project manager's project that I'm now working on. Another example of that problem is we're having a claim against us, and I need to find the specific files related to the claim. Where are they? Solution would be develop a standard document folder structure template. Having a consistent way in how you are storing your documents can make it easy for auditing, to find things, for onboarding new folks. By locking it down, having a standardized structure, every project would look the same. You'd be able to go find those specific documents. Another pain. We don't have a full structure that's locked, but we do need some flexibility. Come on, I need to be able to. We're doing a project that's going to include multiple different parcels of land, and we need to track all the acquisitions for those specific parcels. And we need to have it separated and not just in one giant folder. That doesn't make sense. Okay, we can put into the template a way that there is somebody that is able to, specifically limited role, create additional folders for those off-case chances and have in there a preset folder already designed that they can follow, so the naming convention continues. Another pain is we're not all perfect. We may accidentally upload to the wrong folder. How many times have you been looking in a document structure and see, hey, it could go and playing the game. This document can go into one of these three folders. There is a contracts folder in the project management, a finance folder, and this other project or construction folder. What do I do? Which one does it go to? The best way of managing that could be leveraging automation. So within eBuilder, you will be able to manage that automation by linking specific documents or processes even to a specific folder. So the automation allows it to automatically go to a specific folder. And we'll look at this in a little bit in some of the later slides, but just wanted to give you kind of a preview of what's coming. Another pain. So going back to a claims example, we're having a claim against us. Not having the right version of a file can be extremely costly. I know of a customer that had the wrong version of the file when fighting a claim, and they lost. Even though they were right, they lost by presenting that wrong version. Knowing which version is the latest is extremely critical. Within eBuilder, instead of having to look for a specific version or anything else, eBuilder has a built-in versioning tool within it. So it can help you know which is the latest version and can take out the guesswork of which is the latest. Uploading to the wrong project accidentally or not having the right access to view what is needed could be another problem. So for instance, I don't know, or I'm trying to look or view specific folders on a colleague's project. I should have access. There's no reason that in the organization that I shouldn't have that access. Creating a role and allowing for that view and download only across the organization can allow for that collaboration, ability to learn from other team members, and being able to access that information in self-serve. Another use case is, instead of having to fight with auditors, giving them access even. You can, instead of having to download all the documents for them, they can self-serve. Hey, here's a view-only access. Go look for the document. The documents are all here. There you go. And the most important piece of all of setting up your document management and best practice is training and enforcing adherence. Without training, folks can fall back to their old ways, not put the effort into adopting that new change. So suggestions would be applying change management approach, be super diligent, and they will adopt. Being disciplined for this is extremely important, and having a plan and training just as much. So what works and how to improve? So as I mentioned earlier, pain can be inconsistent structures. So project manager A has one structure for how they like to manage their documents, and project manager B has theirs. Well, that's great. However, if one of them leaves or you have somebody else join the project, they have no clue where those documents are. They're going to be spending all this time trying to reorganize and make sense of how somebody organized their project. Having that standardization can really help. Within eBuilder, you can create a project template. So that project template can then be applied to any new project, so it's consistent right from the get-go. From there, you also have a single source of truth, right? Everything is exactly the same for every single new project. It's consistent. So somebody new coming to the project, they know exactly where to look, what to do, and it helps with training because it's all consistent. It's not, well, you need to talk to that person, or you need to talk to this person and how I do it. The other value of it is you are able to, as you go through your life cycle or change or adapt or learn through the tool, you might find, hey, we need to add a few new folders. We didn't consider this. We might want to split it out. Instead of going to each project individually and updating them, through a template, you can apply that template to all of your existing projects, and it will just update all of those folders. So if you add it to the template, like if I add 3 new folders to the template, I can, in a few clicks, apply it to all the other existing projects in one fell swoop very quickly. Same with adding roles and changing permissions as well to those folders. So managing from a template is extremely beneficial, time efficient, and keeping things consistent. And I do have some clients too that have different verticals that manage within eBuilder, and they may not have the same exact structure on how they want to track their documents. That's fine. Within eBuilder, you can actually create multiple templates for each vertical. So you could have a different document structure for one vertical and have the in your organization, and have a completely separate template for another vertical, and apply those to their specific projects. So at least within those internal organizations, you're able to track consistently. As I mentioned earlier, you can provide flexibility where needed. So for instance, I need to create, going back to my parcel example, I need to create here different folders for each of the parcels that I have. So again, setting up a template as such, where you have a limited role, so only one person, the property acquisition manager, has control of creating these folders. You open it up to everyone else, you can create the Wild West. Anyone can create and rename folders if you open it up. So that's where you, once you limit it, and limit into a specific area of where you're giving that access. Additionally, want to take some time here to talk just about the structure as a whole. One of the best advices or tips I can give you is don't give access to the parent folder for uploading, because folks can be lazy. I may not want to go digging to know there's a particular folder for this to go to. I might stop at the head folder and not go any deeper. So if I, in this case, why not upload to the property acquisition? Why do I need to go any deeper? Or for parcel A, just upload to the parcel A folder. Give access for uploading to the lowest level to drive and force folks to upload to those lower levels. Be cautious on how deep you want to go as well into the structure. You don't want folks having to dig or go through 6 different or 7 layers sometimes for that. Especially if you only have 1 or 2 files in that lower subfolder, may want to consider looking at the folder above, saying, hey, can we just put it in here and make sure we're labeling it correctly? If it's only 1 or 2 files that go into that specific one-off folder. Version control and file history. So who here has ever seen or has encountered revision 1, revision 2, revision 3 at the end of a document, or seen latest version, November 1st, 2021? Okay, is that the latest version? How do I know there's not a Rev 4 somewhere else that was stored accidentally? Do we have we uploaded everything, or is it the right date? Like, how do I know there's not another version they didn't put the date at the end of it? How do I know this? So the solution is, or something else to consider at least, is to utilize the eBuilder built-in version control. So as long as the document is named exactly the same, and in my case is that 2008 or the 208 A1 BW file, as long as it's named exactly the same, anytime that I upload the document to that particular folder, eBuilder will automatically version it. So the benefit is the latest version is always visible. So version 3 is the one that's being displayed within the documents module. Doesn't mean the other ones are gone. It just means they're hidden behind there and not cluttering my folder. So 1, it cleans up your folder, so it makes it less documents to look through, especially if you have a ton of revisions. And 2, you can still access all those documents. You can even do a compare between 2 of them. So you can select 2 and 3 and do a compare and side-by-side comparison to say, hey, what's the difference between these 2? You can utilize the descriptions. When you upload it, there's a pop-up that comes with it, with the document, that allows for you to put in notes. So you can say, just like I have on the screen, updated version 2 on 5.9 and another one on 5.10. So I know it's the latest version. I know who uploaded it. And on top of it, I can put in a brief description of what it is. So by seeing and being able to track all of those in one location, it makes it very easy to know which is my latest version. Now, another pain point could be, hey, did they even look at the file? Have they looked at it? As you can see on my screen, we have a full audit history of everything that happens to that document. So anyone that goes in and looks at it, just the standard view, if they've renamed it, if they downloaded, emailed it, you get to see all of it and seeing who did it. And you'll notice that there's a little checkbox even in my screen here that says view history for all versions. So what I'm showing is just the file history for the latest, but if I opened it up, I can actually have the whole history of every single version of that lifecycle of that document. Again, using that built-in eBuilder versioning tool, which is really neat. So you know exactly who looked at it when, and being able to point to that. Now, one thing I wanted to point out there too is you can see who downloaded it. One of the best practice pieces that I wanted to point out is making sure that when you give folks access, you can give them view. So making sure, for instance, for an auditor, we want to create a role for auditors to be able to view and download maybe any of the files that they need to see or access as part of the audit. Or going back to my other example of where I need to see access or have a view-only access across projects in the organization. If I do that, you'll see at the very top, I have that audit role, and even at the bottom, I have that internal users. So the internal users role could be utilized as a way to having access, that view-only access across my projects to see anything or any project within the account to be able to see or access specific documents. One of the things I want to point out though is I like to give view and download together as a general best practice. And the reason for that is if you get view, if you look back at refer back to my history slide, if I go back one, it'll show you who viewed it and when. So that's clicking, we have a PDF viewer within eBuilder, so you can view like over 120 plus file types without the native software. So you can just view that as like a PDF viewer. But download, if I can view it, there's nothing stopping me from taking a screenshot of it or anything else. I just don't know who's doing it. Or print it to a PDF naturally. So by having the download button, you're able to track who's downloading your files and seeing it. So if you can view it, you might as well be able to download it, is the key thing there. So I usually give those two together just so you're able to at least track in the history who's downloading my files. Now, one of the neatest features, as I briefly mentioned earlier, was leveraging automation. And being able to connect or have it take the guesswork out of it. So in this case, in eBuilder, think of the documents module as like a nervous system. It is connected to everything within eBuilder, the whole platform. So in our processes module, we are able to link specific processes to a specific folder. So every time you upload a document, no matter what, to the attached documents tab, it will go to the same folder every time. We can also create file fields, as you see here on my example for an invoice document. So I can force somebody to upload a document, and I can also map it directly to a folder. So in this case, that invoice document is mapped to that 11.02 pay apps folder. So I can take the entire guesswork out of, hey, if I upload a document, I don't know, I have to choose which folder it goes to. It's already done. There's no guesswork anymore. It's always consistent. Now, the benefit of this as well is, and a little bit of a mind shift change, is when finding documents or searching for documents afterwards, because I'm thinking to myself, hey, I have a lot of different contractors on my project. All their invoice documents are going to be in one folder? No, they are going to be in one folder. However, when I'm looking for and I'm reviewing or finding some documents, it might be for like a change order, for instance. We need to go back and look at all the documents associated to a specific change order. If I was looking for, if something came up and I had to go find those documents, I would be looking for the whole story. I wouldn't just be looking for a single document usually. So what I do is I go look for that specific change order. I get all the details. I get who approved it, when was it approved, when was it submitted, what was the other details around it. And I get all the documents associated with it in one place. So I can search these processes to find my documents that way instead of going directly into my structure. So it's a bit different way of thinking about it, but it's a way that all of your information is collected in one location and you're able to easily find it. Also, if you go back to the central nervous system of the documents module itself, it's all in one consistent folder. You'll know where it is and you can see what it is connected to. Again, you can have multiple file fields. So this is an example with 6 of them showing, and you are able to adjust them to different folders. So you can have the general process go to one folder and have one of these other file fields go to another. So a lot of times I might see like a final design drawing, have a file field for that and be able to map directly to it. So if I look in the documents module, that one and very important document can be found in that folder. And then all the other working documents to get there can be mapped to each of their processes and also in that one other folder. So again, those mappings and creating that automation to take the guesswork out can prevent, hey, which of these 3 folders am I supposed to upload it to? Now, another challenge or issue that someone could find is not all the people on my project are in eBuilder, and I need to share documents with people outside of eBuilder. I need to send this to the contractor. I need them to take a look at it. Another one is I try to send them this file, but it's too big. Their email is blocking it. It's too big of a file. Well, in eBuilder, you can send documents through the built-in send feature, and you can send it as an attachment directly, or as you can see on my screen, a link to download. So you're able to send out documents as a link to download. You are also able, there is a built-in feature where you can send it as a native format or have it converted to a PDF. The other benefit of it when sending it out is you can see who looked at it. So you can see who's opened up the email once you've sent it out as well. That's tracked too. And lastly, what if I receive an email from one of those externals and they don't, they're not in eBuilder, but I want to get into I want to get that attachment in the eBuilder, or like a drawing. Or another example is we've had a very important correspondence chain in an email chain, and I want to save that in the project records. Do I have to just download that email chain to my desktop and then drag it back into eBuilder? Well, there is a way for us to create what we call an email in inbox or email in folder. What the email in feature allows you to do is it creates a email address for that particular folder. You can actually change the name of that email address as long as it's unique on that. That unique, it starts out with the project name, but you can make it unique. And what I wanted to point out a couple neat things. One is you can forward that email and it will store the email thread with any attachments with it all together. So you have a full record of it. The other thing it will do is it can also store not just the email, but you can store the attachments separately. So what does that mean? It means that if I had sent you a drawing via email, I can forward it to this email address and it will store both the email thread and then it'll also store with the attachment in that email thread. It'll also take it out and have a separate document in that folder for me showing that drawing. So then it's already in the cloud, it's already in the system. I can just move it to the proper folder and it saves me having to upload that document. So it's a quick way of getting documents and information into eBuilder without necessarily having that access. The other neat point with this, or point to call out, is how do I know if somebody emailed in? You can set subscriptions to folders or even subfolders. So I'm able to track who is on, so I can track what emails I've received and which email, or like what emails, sorry, what documents have come into my specific folder and when. So I can get it instantly or I can get a daily report at the end of the day. So I do have 2 examples just from our customers of just speaking to some of these best practices. So the first example I'm going to go through quickly is from Cumberland Farms. They are a private company in which they have a grocery store chain in the Northeast, along with some, you can get some of them with gas stations as well. So before implementing a document management solution, they were storing their documents all over the place. They had pitfalls where they thought they were pulling the latest version, but to find out there was something else more recent later on. And then after implementing the document management solution within eBuilder, they can find it and access files 1,000 times easier. They can access the system remotely at any time, anywhere they have internet. They're able to send large files that cannot be emailed. The GCs were posting their documents to processes which were automatically saved to the correct folder through that automation. And I'll show the rest of this quote in a second, but the blame game was all but disappeared. So here's the full quote. When I asked my former critics what the turning point was for him, he said version control. He told me that when he would previously look for civil engineering documents on the network drive, he wasn't sure which was the most current copy. Construction had the wrong plan, fingers were pointed, and nobody was being held accountable. With the introduction of eBuilder and once he could finally see the benefit, the blame game all but disappeared. So really the main benefit from it was it eliminated confusion, added transparency and accountability, and created a better collaborative environment. And then another example is for the New Jersey Department of Transportation. So before implementing the document management solution, if they had to find a document, it was a wild goose chase, just trying to find it. When it comes to the costs associated with toner, office supplies, printing plans, plotters, as well as the project costs around printing, huge costs compared to doing things digitally. Project moves to someone else's hands. Now that new person has to figure out how do these person file those documents? What structure is it in? Makes no sense to me. After implementing the document management solution, they were able to find information, and that the increased access to documents was a huge benefit. And I like this example with the soil boiling report. It could be named supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and still retain information on the back end of that it's a soil boiling report or reports for whichever project they happen to be uploaded on. And having that was a huge asset to them. So I want to thank everyone for your time. I want to call out that we do have our 2022 Infrastructure Virtual Summit for owners on June 1st. Just to comment, it is focused more on our government owner clients for that particular summit, but you can please go ahead and register for that summit. And I also want to remind everyone to come back next week for forecasting, be proactive, not reactive. So that'll be on May 18th. That will be the second webinar in this series. We'll take a look quickly at the chat there. And it looks like the link to that registration for the 2022 Infrastructure Virtual Summit has been posted in the chat for anyone that would like to register. So I do not see any questions. So I want to thank again everyone for your time today and have a great rest of the day.